Neigong and internal energy training are probably one of the most misunderstood things in the modern world. A lot of people think that they're doing Neigong, they think that they're activating their internal energy when they're really just sitting around imagining things, making absolutely nothing happen. When you actually practice Neigong, it's very powerful. Will light up your energy. You'll experience a tangible activation of your energy body. You'll experience the feeling of chi pushing itself through your body. It's an incredible experience. So I'm going to dive into principles of Neigong and how you can know you are on the right path with your Qigong, Neigong training. So let's get into it. I'm Jonathan White. I'm here to help you master your sexual energy so you can manifest your ideal life. Make sure you get my free ejaculation control ebook through the link in the video description. Hit subscribe to stay updated when I drop awesome new content. So the first question is, what is Neigong? Ne means internal. Gong, as in Gong Fu or Kung Fu, basically means a skill set that's attained from training. So Neigong is essentially the skill of internal mastery. And what does that actually mean? Well, generally it's referring to internal energy, the mastery of Qi, really. Then the question is, well, what's Qigong and what is Neigong? There's a lot of intricacy to this because language is a barrier here. There's a rich collection of internal exercises coming from China, which are on a very wide spectrum of what they do. But usually Qigong is referred to like specific exercises that you do, like, okay, I'm doing Qigong, I'm in this posture and I'm breathing and I'm moving. There's Neigong components to Qigong, whereas Neigong is very much a process. It's a process of training your mind and your body and engaging the energy body. It's a process of transforming yourself. We're born with an energy body functioning, but it gets shut off essentially through modern living. And Neigong is a way of turning it back online. And that is a process. It's not just like, oh, you do this one thing and you're good to go. No, it's a process. There's many different skill sets. There's many different principles involved. So that's what I'm gonna break down now is some of the different principles and focal points of Neigong training. There's more than this. I could have many more, but we gotta start somewhere. Mental absorption. And in the internal arts, this is known as ting. Ting translates to listening energy. The mind it's like a cloud or like water, very, very water-like, we could say. It exists in a certain location. It can spread, it can move. For most people, their mind, their awareness is up in their head. It's very difficult to get Qi engaging when you're up in your head. This is where another thing where people teaching like visualization-based systems, where you just imagine things happening, just imagine it, imagine this, imagine that. They often get very stuck because you're up in your head, you're visualizing and imagining things, and you're trying to make something happen in your body. And what it does is pulls you up more into your head. And it's often another path to delusion. See, this is kind of the opposite. You're filling your body with your awareness. And just this practice alone, just sitting, like absorbing your mind into your body from head to toe, especially obvious areas like the Dantian. This is the only way to engage Qi. The deeper the mind can get into the body, the more your mind can be absorbed into your body, the more Qi you'll be able to activate and accumulate. So it's a simple thing. This is releasing thoughts, releasing projections or even intentions, and just absorbing, being within your body. Ting, listening energy. So it implies that there's a receptivity to it, like you're listening to something. This is an essential quality that is one of the foundations of Neigong practice. Next quality I'll talk about, or principle, is compression, implying that something is pressure building. The Dantian is a field in the lower belly. You've probably heard of this if you've done any practice or study of Qigong or Neigong. It's not something that's simply there. There's a lot of systems you'll hear the instructions and it implies that you already have a Dantian in place, but you don't. I pretty much guarantee if you haven't been training in Dantian practices, you haven't had a Dantian since probably puberty because it gets dispersed. This is one of the first things we want to get going in our Neigong practice. Without the Dantian, you can't really do anything because it's like the battery and the engine for your energy body. It's a space that your Qi can collect. There's techniques obviously, but essentially just holding your awareness here really is as simple as that, but easier said than done because your mind goes back to your head, you think thoughts, the Qi rises up to the head and strengthens the thoughts. But if you can get your mind to absorb in the Dantian region, which for most people is going to be right between Hu Yin and Qi Hai, these 2 points here. Qi Hai is about 2 inches beneath the belly button. Hu Yin is your perineum. If you draw a line straight up and straight in from Qi Hai, straight up from Hu Yin, it's going to be about the center of your lower Dantian. So absorb your mind into there for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. The Dantian will build, and it's a tangible thing. This isn't like, okay, I imagine this color down there, and yeah, it's my Dantian, bro, I got it going. No, you'll feel it. For me, it feels like this hot, bubbling, viscous, like fluid magma. But when it gets activating, sometimes it pulls, like it cramps and it pulls on the surrounding tissues. It's quite interesting. I've trained in many different systems, but what I found the most effective thing to be was systems that really focus on compressing, building and compressing the chi. Let's compare it to like water. If the water's in a very thin state, maybe it's more like a mist. And it's like, yeah, it's kind of there, but it's not super substantial. Well, what if you compress humidity? What if you compress mist? It starts to gather, it starts to condense into drops of water. And then you keep compressing more humidity into it. And before you know it, you're gonna have a little substantial ball of water. And that gives you a lot more hydraulic pressure to move through a system than a little bit of mist would. The more that we thicken and compress and condense the chi, the lower Dantian is the safe place to do this. The stronger your chi is, and the more it's going to affect your body. And essentially what happens is we build the chi so strongly in the lower Dantian that it starts to overfill and it fills up the channel system. Microcosmic orbit, the 8 extraordinary meridians. There's a lot of other channels too that are involved in the process. A lot of systems from the beginning are just like, yeah, breathe through the microcosmic orbit. And that's fine. Like if you're doing sexual kung fu, you just want a path for your sexual arousal to move in, your orgasm to move in. It's fine, it works. What really unlocks the full power of the microcosmic orbit is having a substantial amount of chi to move through that. And a simple way to do this is working with reverse breathing. True reverse breathing. You'll often hear people teach reverse breathing where it's like, hey, you just suck in your stomach. That's it. It's not that. It's something much more subtle. If you want me to make a video on reverse breathing, let me know in the comments. Okay, another principle is connection. I'm talking about a specific type of connection here, which is essentially lower Dantian. It's the foundation of everything. If you don't have a Dantian, if you don't have a lower Dantian built, you can't really do Neigong. You start to connect, both the feet and the palms. The Lao Gong. You've probably heard of the Lao Gong in the palms, but it's another case of, for most people, it's not doing anything. It's not activated. You connect the Lao Gong to the lower Dantian, and now your Qigong does something. Before it, you're just dilly-dabbling around, and it's nice, and it'll have some effect. It'll have some effect on your Qi. You're doing something, but this intensifies 10 times, 100 times when you actually develop a connection between the Lao Gong and the Dantian. Now your hands they're kind of like the steering wheel. Steering wheel for your chi. Your Dantian's the engine and the battery. Your hands are the steering wheel. You start to develop this field of chi in the hands. And when you build chi, especially when you build yin chi, it has a magnetic effect. It's like a magnetic field. With internal energy, I've heard many different explanations of like yin and yang chi. Some are like, oh, yang chi's hot, yin chi's cool. But the explanation that I vibe more with because I experience it tangibly is yin chi is magnetic fields. It's fields. It's these like magnetic fields holding things in place. Whereas yang chi is like an electricity. It's moving through the fields. The example being the Dantian, the yin field is this container, like a bucket, which then gets filled with yang chi, like filling it up with water. And just the same, you must develop this yin and yang field in the hands. So when the hands activate, the Dantian's activated, you connect the two, and now your hands are interacting with your lower Dantian. I feel it. I'm engaging my palms in front of my lower belly, and it starts to pull on that field like a magnet. You start to feel the chi getting pulled through your system. This is what Qigong is supposed to be. And so basically, as you're doing Qigong practice, doing a Neigong practice, you spend a lot of time building the Dantian, then you learn to connect the field of the lower Dantian to the field of your hands. And once that's established, boom, you can really move and circulate your chi throughout your body. Fourth principle I want to talk about here, and it's not really a principle, it's kind of an issue perhaps, is visualization. I'm putting a question mark here because it's like, there's different perspectives on this. There's perspectives that, yeah, visualization is what engages chi. It's what communicates with the chi realm and the higher spiritual planes and all these things. And then there's other perspectives that visualization is fantasy and it never brings you anywhere. I'm somewhere in between on these perspectives. I already talked a bit about how, like, if you're super in your head and you're doing visualization on top of this, it's just gonna make you more in your head. You can't build the Dantian by visualization. You cannot really open the microcosmic orbit by imagining it in your head. So for example, if you imagine there's this ball and it's really thick and dense and it's moving up your spine like a bubble pushing through a tube. Notice how this is actually more of a kinesthetic sense that we're engaging with. And I said, like, yeah, imagine this is happening, so it's like a visualization type thing, but what it is actually getting you to do is create a kinesthetic sense, your mind interacting with the body. This type of thing can actually engage your energy body. but it's not gonna do much until you have chi built up, okay? So I would skip visualization for a long time in your practice, like just straight visualization. True Qigong systems, true Neigong systems, it's a system of building mental qualities. You'll use postures, you use movements, and these things build the chi for you. Which brings us right to intention. And often this is corresponding to the concept of yi in Taoism and Chinese medicine. Part of this is what I talked about before, mental absorption, ting, which is a very relaxed intention. When I say intention, it's more so like, what are you trying to do? And what level of strain or force are you using to do it? And this is a very important principle to talk about. A lot of modern Qigong practices, a lot of modern Neigong systems, there's a lot of mental straining, like, I gotta push this thing through my spine, I gotta push this chi. When it comes to your practice, the more of a relaxed quality you can have with your mind, the more efficient your chi will engage and build. When you're really just like, come on, I gotta do this thing, you're gonna hit a brick wall very quickly. This is the mental quality of your training. It should be relaxed, detached, serious, but not overly attached to the outcome of it, essentially. Stillness and movement. We must have these in balance. These are both things we need to cultivate. And there's different layers to this. Like there's the obvious, like whether your body's still or whether it's moving. There's a lot of standing postures in Neigong and Qigong, like Zhan Zhuang type practice where you just stand and hold a posture. And there's also movement flows and things like that. That's one level of this. There's a common saying within the internal arts, I think this came from Yichuan if I remember correctly. If you're in a meditation, sitting position or a standing posture, you want to find the movement that's within that stillness. When you're in a moving practice, whether you're doing like, Tai Chi form or Qigong form, you want to find the stillness within the movement, meaning that you want your mind to be calm, grounded, you're in a meditative state, even though you're moving physically. I recommend you have a combination of stillness and movement practice. You need to do stillness work, you're sitting, you're emptying your mind, you're working with lower Dantian. Static posture work, Zhan Zhuang type training was a huge part of my training. And one of the big benefits to movement practice within Qigong is learning to use the movement forms themselves to create these internal connections and this internal awareness, this quality of ting, so that the movement and the internal connections happening creates an engagement and circulation of chi instead of you forcing it with your mind. If you do all chi building and no circulation, it becomes stagnant, you become rigid and just feeling very stuck. If you do too much circulation, too much movement, not enough stillness, it kind of wears your energy out, becomes very thin. You need this balance between movement and stillness. Final one I'm going to talk about is refinement. This is a common understanding within Neigong, which is Taoist internal alchemy. We spend years and years and years building chi, and then we learn to refine it. You mix various energies together within the body, you refine it, you purify it, and this creates what's known as the pearl, or the elixir in internal alchemy. We get this imagery of, it's a very refined substance. It's like taking raw ore and turning it into gold, essentially. So this is something that happens over time. When you're practicing correctly, your energy becomes more and more refined. The more it becomes compressed, the more powerful it becomes, the more this connection develops in your body, the easier it is for the energy to freely flow throughout your body. The better your mental qualities become, your absorption ability, your proper intention, your balance of stillness and movement. All of this work over time, it's like swordsmithing, where they heat the iron, they melt it down, and then they bang on it with a hammer, shape it into the sword, and they melt it down again, shape it over and over again, forging it layer by layer. It's how your chi is. Every practice session, you're like annealing your chi. You're putting another layer on it, you're refining it a little bit more, and over time, your chi becomes very refined, becomes very polished. Your energy body becomes very awakened. So I put immortality in the title of this video, but what is immortality? Obviously, there's the physical immortality type of thing, which at the very least, longevity. There's stories of masters in China who lived to be like 250, 300 years old. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. There's some compelling evidence though. But basically what happens when you're doing Neigong, when your chi really starts to build, is that your body functions much more efficiently. Your endocrine system becomes nourished, even like reset when you really start building chi. Hormone production becomes more efficient, digestion improves, so if nothing else, this is very valuable to your longevity. I mean, the mental qualities you need to have to build your Dantian and open the channel system will make you a more centered, calm, grounded, relaxed person. But there's also this possibility that by building your energy body, you're starting to tap into a higher realm. You develop more creative ability. interact with this realm that we live in. And there's the possibility, this is what's talked a lot about in some of the stories and the classics, is the potential that this energy body you've built can stay conscious. And basically this integrated version of you, your mind, body, soul, the essence of that becomes contained within this vessel that keeps living after you die. So that instead of just getting rewashed back into the cosmic database, you keep your personality, you keep your identity, you keep the unique things you've cultivated in this lifetime, and you're able to continue creating in the higher realms. So is this true? I have no idea, but it seems, seems reasonable for me. And it's another point for me to keep my intense daily practice going. So there you have it, guys. So Neigong, hope you enjoyed the video. If you're interested in training in Neigong, check out my Dantian development program. It's a really, really great starting point to really start, of course, building your Dantian and get a lot of these qualities to start happening in your mind and body. And let me know in the comments if you'd like to see more of this type of video in the future. Hit like, subscribe to support the channel. Have a good day, my friend. Best wishes on your journey of cultivation.